Good evening. This is Tim Young, and this is Chewy's Road to Enlightenment. Tonight, I have a very special guest. His name is Robert Beck, and this episode is Robert Beck, Strolling Down the Boardwalk. And I'd like to welcome Robert Beck on the show. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am very good. Weather is beautiful.
Good.
The sun's out today, so life is good, right?
Life is great, especially here in the sunshine state. I'm in Florida,
Oh, yeah.
so
No
yeah,
lack of sun there.
the weather's a little hot now because it's still August, still summertime. But other than that, the weather's always beautiful here in Florida.
Oh, good. Well, that's a wonderful thing, and I'd like to welcome you to the program. So I guess let's start. Let's bring this right back to the beginning. Where were you born? Where are you from?
Okay, I was born in a small town called Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Oh, just that little old town on the East Coast there, with
Yeah,
casinos and boardwalks and all types of cool stuff.
exactly. The Jersey Shore.
So what was that like growing up in Atlantic City? I mean, never a dull moment.
It was amazing. My whole childhood to teenage to adult was just amazing. From the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So I'm a 60s baby.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
I'm a '70s baby, so but
Yeah.
we're not too far off.
No,
Um,
we're not. No,
so
no.
so growing up in Atlantic, what was that like? What were you? What did you? How was your childhood? Let's start there.
Oh, my childhood was awesome. Awesome. Everybody played sports. Everybody played basketball, football, baseball. Back in the '70s in Atlantic City, everything was about having fun, boardwalk, you know, dirt biking. I rode a dirt bike back then.
Nice.
Everything was just all about having fun.
Well,
You know,
that's what life. If everybody could take that attitude, having fun, and incorporate that into their everyday life, into their work ethic, I mean, we'd be in a lot better place. You know
absolutely,
that that
absolutely.
that attitude. So yeah, I grew up riding on a farm. So grew up riding dirt bikes, snowmobiles, four wheelers, and raising hell as a kid. So I was in the country, you were in the city, but still you can.
Well, absolutely. I was born and raised in the city, but my mother's from South Carolina and my father's from Augusta, Georgia, and my father went to elementary school with James Brown.
Oh my
So
God.
both my grandparents were farmers, farmers in Georgia, farmers in South Carolina. Right outside of Myrtle Beach was a small town called Darlington, South Carolina, which growing up on the farm life was fun for me as a kid.
Oh yeah.
I was feeding the chickens, the pigs, the cows, dirt biking, learning how to hunt as a young kid. A city kid going to the south, learning how to hunt and farm was fun.
Yeah, and
That
it's
was a fun thing. So my parents sent me to the south for the summertime to keep me out of trouble, out of the city life.
well, you know what, and my hats off to your folks because that's awesome. I mean,
Absolutely.
that was the best thing for you and your grandparents.
Yes.
Getting to spend the summer with their grandson. I mean, that's
Hmm.
what more could you ask for? I mean, that's
Exactly.
no, that's awesome. No, yeah, and I grew up on a
Exactly.
working pig farm too. We had pigs and cows, and the whole deal. And yeah, there's something to be said about putting in a hard day's work on the farm. It's
Yes.
it's not
Yes.
like it's not like any other job. It's
Hmm.
definitely that's about as blue collar as it gets. You know,
That's right.
you're
That is right.
you're a farmer, you're a veterinarian,
Hmm.
you're a mechanic, you're the list goes on. A farmer has about 15 or 20 different hats that they wear. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's cool. Like we love
Yeah.
South Carolina. We're down there. We go down there every April with our family. We take our kids down there. Um,
Okay, what part?
we go
What
to
part of South Carolina?
we stay up in Cherry Grove up in North Myrtle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, I know exactly where that is.
yeah, beautiful area.
Exactly.
Like always, just the weather's always decent. We knock on wood when we get there. We're New Englanders, so when the water temperatures in the mid 70s, we're ecstatic.
Mm,
You go down there in April and it's in the 70s, low 80s, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. And then nobody else is in the water.
exactly. Exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so awesome. You had a great youth. You were doing you know living two great lives. And so when you were back in the city, what were your hobbies? What was occupying your time?
Oh, my hobbies back then was was football, boxing, and martial arts. Those were my focus as a child in my teen years. And I end up, getting my master's belt in Taekwondo. End up teaching martial arts for about 30 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and boxing with all the guys. I grew up in the neighborhood with everybody was boxing, and one of my good friends was working out with, and that became a professional boxer was Bruce Sheldon. And Bruce Sheldon lived right next door to me in Atlantic City, and I ended up introducing him to Don King, and Don King started managing him, and that's when we had the fight against Mike Tyson and Bruce Sheldon the same night that Tupac got killed.
Oh my God.
Yes. So
Talk
how is that a small world?
that is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great night, but what a tragic night.
But yeah, it was a great night, but it was a sad night at the same time.
What's funny is like I think back on a lot of stuff, moments in life that you go through, different struggles, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like out of tragedy, there always seems to be some type of a I don't want to say an accomplishment, but there's something good that comes out of it sometimes.
Yes.
And death I always struggle with
Yes.
because it's like how do you okay, you're left with memories, which is great. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're fortunate with the technology we have. We have film, we have unlimited pictures, through our phones and internet, and keeping your loved ones' memories alive now is easier than it's ever been.
Absolutely.
But it
Absolutely.
still never replaces that person, the friend of a family or whatever. Doesn't replace them, but it's nice to hold on to that stuff.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
not I do this a lot, Robert. So
Uh-huh.
just bear with me. The conversation just kind of flows like a river. There's turns and there's it speeds up, then it slows down, and sometimes it just takes a different direction. So, so boxing, you just mentioned that Tyson, the Tyson fight, Tupac.
Yes.
How
Yes.
so? How did you meet Don King? How was that?
Well, okay. Let's go back a little bit. Okay, I had a football scholarship for South Carolina State University.
Hell yeah.
So my summer job was working at Bally's Park Place. So Bally's Park Place, a summer job became a lifetime job working in the hotel casino industry. And Bruce Sheldon got in a little trouble as a youth, and he got in detention. He went to the detention school, and as soon as he came out, I said, Bruce, you come out, I can get you a job. So I got him a job as a valet parker working at Bally's Park Place, where I was working at. And back in the early '80s, Bally's Park Place was the mecca of have the fight era. We had Alexis Aguero fighting, Boom Boom Mancini. Everybody was fighting at our hotel. So I knew all the promoters. I knew all the boxers. I became good friends with Don King's daughter. And, I was talking to Bruce. I said, Bruce, I said, you have 10 amateur fights when you turn pro. Let me introduce you to Don King. He said, "Oh man, I don't want. I heard Don King steals your money." I said, "Bruce, you don't have any money right now. You're not gonna make no money. You're not gonna make millions of dollars as a ballet parker. So let me introduce you to him. Let him manage you and let him take you further than what you are right now."
Yep.
And the story goes from there. He met Don King. Don King started managing him. Don King started managing Tyson. And Bruce was the IBF champion, heavyweight champion. And that fight in 1996 with Tyson happened, and he lost the fight, of course, first round knockout. Tyson knocked him out. But that was the night that Tupac got murdered.
Yeah, tragic. Absolutely tragic.
Very, very tragic. But working in the casino industry for 38 years, I knew all the promoters. I knew Lou Duva personally. I knew his sons. I knew everybody that was in the boxing game at that point.
Wow, what a time to be what a time to have that job, and what a time to be alive and witness that stuff.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, 4 fighters from the Atlantic City area are in the Boxing Hall of Fame, including Bruce Sheldon is in the Boxing Hall of Fame. You know,
Your friend, your friend Bruce.
Yeah,
Yep.
my friend Bruce he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Darrell Wilson, matter of fact, he just got inducted to the Boxing Hall of Fame in September. So he's another gentleman that worked in Atlantic City, and now he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Johnny Brown's from Atlantic City. He's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. You know, Lavander Johnson, I was good friends with him in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Kevin Watts, he's from Pleasantville, New Jersey. I actually was his sparring partner for a lot of his fights, and he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. So I knew a lot of people that was in the fight game.
Oh, that's awesome. And you were doing martial arts at the time too?
Yes, but actually I got into martial arts because my mother did not want me to box. She said, "I don't want you to, I don't want you to box. I don't want you to end up like Muhammad Ali, and blah, 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 blah. And I don't want you taking the headshots." She's not knowing that martial arts is more deadly than boxing. You're using hands and feet.
Yeah, everything's flying.
Yeah, so I started, actually, my sensei, Malcolm Perkins, he trained me my senior year in high school to get ready for college football. So that's how I really got involved with martial arts at 17 years old.
Wow, that's awesome.
I worked I went to a karate school called Ninja Karate Academy in Benton, New Jersey, and that school was one of the hardest fighting schools in the state of New Jersey. And I mean, it's hard to get a black belt out of that dojo because my karate teacher, he trained boxers, he trained martial artists, he trained wrestlers. He trained everybody, and to go to that school and not quit and get a black belt is an amazing accomplishment.
Oh, congratulations on that!
Thank you.
And I'm sure that
everybody that wanted to be a professional fighter came through that gym.
That's awesome. And is that gym still around today?
It just recently at COVID closed that school.
Oh man!
So at the end of COVID, it closed down for good.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Many.
But the building is still up, and it's still on Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor City, New Jersey. Ninja Karate Academy.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, talk about being able to do that, and then, go through and get your black belt. Because I know a lot of people that are into mixed martial arts and stuff, and it's a discipline. That is, it is a total discipline, and you need to be committed. And my hat off to you, sir, for that.
Yes.
So you got you're doing karate. Now you're into the boxing. You're friends with these boxers, and what was that like?
It was amazing. I mean, this going to all the the gyms in Philly and New York, and going with the boxers that all the guys I grew up with turned pro, and they want me to manage them, but I don't want to get in the management side of it. So I said, I just want to see you succeed. You know, I just want you to do good, and to this day, we're great friends. They call me all the time.
That's awesome.
Great friends.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Now, are there any like very memorable fights that you have attended? I'm sure the '96 fight was one that you were there for.
Oh yeah. No, the one fight. I knew Tyson in the '80s, but one of the memorable fights I went to in Atlantic City in the '80s was when Tyson beat Michael Spinks.
Oh wow!
In the Convention Hall, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Man, you know
that was a great fight.
Tyson is probably one of my favorite boxers, just because I'm a kid of the born in the '70s, grew up in the '80s and '90s, and back in the '80s and '90s, Tyson was everywhere. Like,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
video games. I mean, but just as a fighter, like I it is an intimidation factor because the man is a stone cold killer, and you watch him come into the ring and nothing is phasing him. Like, and I've watched plenty of fights in MMA and all that, but it's like, I don't know, when Tyson was coming out into the ring, it was game time. Like, it was all seriousness, and you knew that he was ready to take your head off.
Yeah.
And you don't see many. I don't know. Maybe they are, but you don't. He just, to me, he had this crazy drive, and maybe was growing up the way he did, and not having a lot, and wanting to better himself and do better, and I just. One.
Have you ever met Tyson?
I haven't.
He's a really, really nice guy. I mean, down to earth. He's real, and he's a giving person. I mean, even when he was making all that money as a youth, he would give you the shirt off his back.
And he was from Connecticut, correct?
No, he was from Brownsville.
Okay. Now, didn't he live in Connecticut for a bit?
Oh yeah, he bought a house. He bought a mansion in Connecticut that 50 Cent ended up buying after he sold it.
Oh wow, okay. I knew there was a connection to him in Connecticut at one time.
Yeah, I think he paid $10 million for the house. It was, unbelievable mansion, and 50 Cent ended up buying it for $5 million, and then now it's up for sale again because he wants to sell it. I don't know if he sold it or not, but I know it was up for sale.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. But yeah, Mike has always struck me as he, in my opinion, as bad as a motherfucker as he was, he always seemed humble.
Oh, very humble.
Very humble. And I think that's probably why he connected with me, and probably connected with so many other people of our generations, was that humble, that work ethic. Like, even a couple years ago when he decided to fight, that exhibition fight, I'm like, man, I felt like he was holding back. I'm like, man, like, if he wanted to absolutely annihilate him, he could, just because the man is just he's a machine. And nothing.
His workouts and everything. I used to see him work out at the Police Athletic League in Atlantic City, and in the gym at Trump Plaza. I mean, he would just destroy the heavy bag like it's nothing.
Oh, I'm sure. It was like
he was a machine. He was a machine.
He
was a machine.
I loved watching his videos where he's training, because it was like you could just hear. Being in a gym all the time, you can just hear when a guy is hitting with power, and man, that guy could hit. He could hit. Well, that's cool. I love that. That's a great story. Knowing that you were at that fight, and
absolutely
got to witness
and the Holyfield Tyson fight was just amazing.
You were there
Just
for that
amazing.
as well.
Yes, yes, and I'm good friends with Vander Holyfield. Nice guy, very down to earth.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's
Nice
awesome.
guy.
You know, Evander Holyfield, another just an Iron Man too.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I think guys like him, Ali, Sugar Ray, I
Mhm.
mean George Foreman. You know,
Yes.
George Foreman. What he came back fight? He was what in his 40, 41.
He was in his 40s when he was 45 years old when he won the championship again. He's
Like,
another guy that I met many times. Very humble man.
and again,
Very humble.
that blue collar, hardworking, and
Yes.
all those guys to me always had something in common. They're
All humble.
all humble. You know, and that's why I love those. I just love that. It's
Mhm.
you know, it shows people that even though at that time, you know, each one of those guys in their prime were larger than life. It shows them that they're still grounded when they show, you know, being humble and being thankful and being grateful. And
Exactly.
people want to see that. People connect with that, and that's I guess that's one of the great things about when these guys go pro and they do that and you know interact with their fans and that little those little moments in time when somebody of that caliber interacts with a fan or you know it's could be life changing for that person, but it's such a easy gesture to be kind and you know show your gratitude and
Exactly.
you know
Exactly.
the universe rewards you when you can go about acting and doing things like that. You know,
Exactly. The energy you put out is the energy that you receive.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
for years I was you know not miserable, but I would be you know kind of pissy towards people and just get irritable and it's like the second you can really like figure out how to get rid of that stuff,
Mhm.
the negativity, dealing with negative people, being around negative people, it's like yeah, you know what, I'm going to be positive, and guess what? You're going to attract positive people.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and life is so much easier with a positive outlook and positive attitude because it's easier to be positive than it is to be negative. It's work being a negative person. You got to work at that. You know, for people that are
Yeah.
miserable, it's like man, you'd probably be sleeping a lot better and feeling a lot better if you were smiling and laughing and you know having a positive outlook on life.
Mhm.
You know, it's when I go into my 9 to 5 every morning. I you know I go in there with a cup of coffee. I'm early. Throw my you know sit down. I read, go through you know social media or whatever. And then as everybody's coming in, I'm like, hey, how's it going? They're like, all right. I'm like, all right. I'm like, sun's shining. You're above ground, and I'm like, how bad is it? Yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm right. Like it's
Exactly.
and that's you try you know I try to do that you know going to the coffee shops. Like this morning, I ran into a friend, and it was like I holding the door for him to come out, and he's like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" You know, we talked for a minute and caught up, and but you know, holding doors for people, smiling, you know, buying somebody a cup of coffee in the drive-through. You know,
Exactly.
I just to me, it's like it's those little things that could change the course for of somebody's day,
Absolutely.
and it's
Absolutely.
easy and it doesn't cost you anything.
No, it doesn't.
Though it's
No, it doesn't.
so anyways so you're in Jersey, you get into boxing. So how did you what how did things go for you after you were done in the you know working in the casinos and stuff? Where did life take you?
Well, let's go. Let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
I played football at South Carolina State University, and one of my good friends was Barney Bussey. He was a defensive back, and he ended up getting drafted his rookie year. He ended up going to the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals, and we became good friends.
Oh my
He
God.
played with Mickey Woods, and of course, they lost to San Francisco 49ers. But I always root for the Bengals just because of him. And I played football, and he's like, I was tired. Excuse me.
Yeah, you're okay.
I was I didn't have the fire playing football no more because it seemed like it was a job playing college football. So, but I have college was fun. Me and a couple guys I grew up with in Atlantic City, I convinced them to come to South Carolina State, and we started this DJ company called GMS Productions. And GMS Productions, we was doing parties, we was doing shows, we was doing everything. We was on the school board for the entertainment for homecoming, and I'll never forget we booked Run DMC for the first time.
Holy
and
shit!
It was like, what is this rap music? You going to a southern school, and they don't understand this new music called hip hop or rap. So us coming from the north, we were born into that music. So we knew LL Cool J and all the guys when they started with Def Jam in the mid '80s, early '80s, and we was DJing, we was doing parties, and I had a rolling drum machine, and I had it connected to every time we did a party, I would make my own beats. And people would come up to the stage and say, "What's the name of that song? Can I buy that song?" I said, "Man, this is me just playing around with this rolling drum machine." And he was like, "Oh my goodness, you should do something with that and do something with this." And I never thought nothing of it, And I left college and ended up working in the casino industry, and we started another production company. Well, it was still GMS Productions, and we was looking for talent in the South Jersey area.
Yep.
So we signed an artist. His name was Shamil MC. He was a rapper, and we signed him, and we did a demo. Shot this demo to Def Jam. Shot this demo. Def Jam, everybody wanted our music, but they didn't want our artists, and they wanted to sign us. We turned down so many deals as producers because that was our thing. We used to love to produce,
mm-hmm.
Looking back on it, we should have took a deal as a producer because they wanted us to produce all the Def Jam artists back in the day, and that could have put our foot in the door of being, like the Neptunes back in the day. We could have been the new Neptunes of the 80s.
Yeah.
But we was looking at a bigger picture. We wanted our own record label. We wanted our own production company. We wanted our own thing. We wanted to be our own Def Jam, But the songs that we did, everybody, the radio stations was playing the demo. Everybody wanted the record, and I never forget. We used to have a convention that used to come to Atlantic City called the Impact Convention, and the Impact Convention was like one of the biggest music conventions in the United States at the time. That's where all the new artists come and get signed.
Mm-hmm.
They do shows, they do presentations. All the record labels are there. We had a lot of deals on the table with. We had another artist named TQ. He went to college with us, and we had a song called "Africa's Your Motherland," and we used the sample from Quincy Jones. We used a Quincy Jones sample, and everybody wanted to sign the artist. Greg Beck, that worked for Polygram Records, said, "Man, I need an album like this." And every time we were on the table of getting signed to a big multi-million-dollar record deal, the A&R guy or the vice president of Polygram or RCA would get fired. So that was our claim to fame. But in the 80s, I managed a kid named LaMarshall Figs. So LaMarshall Figs got signed to Tommy Boy Records. We got him signed to Tommy Boy Records. And Tommy Boy formed the group Digital Underground.
Oh, my God.
With Shock G and Tupac and all of them. and we got our first gold record off of No Nose Job, and MC Clever was in the group, and we met Tupac and knew all the artists, Shock G, everybody. So, everybody was saying that it's a gimmicky type of group, it's a gimmick, it's a clown song, but everybody liked it,
Yep.
Shock G just recently passed away, and he was living down here in Florida with me. He was living in Tampa, but he just passed away, God rest his soul, 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
But the music business was we did a lot of things in the music business. Then, like I said, they had the Impact Convention, and I don't know if you know Rodney Jerkins. Rodney Jerkins from our era. We all grew up together. He's a lot younger than me.
Okay.
But Rodney Jerkins was about 16 years old, and he was like, they had the Impact Convention, and my college roommate was doing the security for the convention. He has his own security company. And he said, everybody called me by my last name, Beck. Hey, Beck, man, can you get me in this convention? Can you sneak me in? Can you get me in? I said, you're 15 years old. You're going to get me in trouble. And he had all his demos, all his music, because he was, he's a good producer.
Yep.
At 15 years old, he's like a genius producer at a young age. And he ended up meeting Teddy Riley. And Teddy Riley liked his music so much that he got him a big deal, and he got his first break, and he became famous from there. He did a lot of songs for SWV. He did songs for what's the group that Beyonce was in? Destiny Child. He produced Destiny Child.
Oh, wow.
He produced Mary J. Blige. He produced Michael Jackson. He produced everybody that was out there back in the 90s and 2000s. He's in California now. Now he's doing movie scores and stuff like that, show scores. So it's good to be part of his success coming from Atlantic City, New Jersey. He's from, not Atlantic City, but Pleasantville. Pleasantville and Atlantic City is almost the same, right next to each other.
Yeah.
But he is well known in the music industry, and he's a good friend of mine.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
And he's from your neighborhood. He's from your area.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Him and his brother. His brother Freddie is around he's a little bit younger than me, but Freddie is well known in the gospel music. And him and Freddie were partners in that whole production called Dark Child Music, Dark Child Records, Dark Child Production. And they produced everybody that was out there back in the day.
Nice. Oh,
yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And man, I say it more times than one. Music connects people, and it
absolutely
it does so many different things on so many different levels. And yeah, I love stories like that. I love hearing that. It's success stories are great, and success stories when your friends are successful and you're successful, it's even better. It's even better.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, it's like almost like how they say it's 7 degrees of separation. Everybody's connected to each other.
We are
in some type of way. And another story I got to tell you. My karate teacher Malcolm Perkins was college roommates with a gentleman that I was really close to. They went to not Penn State, but they went to Mr. College, Philly. I forgot the name of the college, but they were college roommates.
Okay.
And his name was Lewis Katz. And Lewis Katz, I worked with Lewis Katz at the casino, and he was so successful in the parking business. He owned the parking for Madison Square Garden. He did the parking for the Spectrum, and he ended up selling his parking business and ended up buying the Jersey Devil hockey team.
Oh my God!
Then he was part owners of the New York Yankees. Then he was part owner of the owner of the New Jersey Nets basketball team.
Oh my God.
And he won a championship with the Jersey Devil hockey team, and we became, I mean, great friends, great friends. I mean, he introduced me to his best friend that was Ed Snyder, that he owned Comcast. Ed Snyder owned the Phillies. Ed Snyder owned the Sixers. So I mean, it was like you said, everybody was connected to each other. Everybody became great and very close friends.
That's awesome because that's when you're successful and you can share your success with others and
Absolutely,
help lift
absolutely.
help and lift other people up and I say this, whether there's 20 people that listen to this or 150 or 200 people, it's like
Mm-hmm.
if you are in a position where you can, and it doesn't even have to be monetary. It could be
Mm-hmm.
sharing a social media post of somebody's. It could be, you know, just a positive interaction, maybe a little bit of positive reinforcement that somebody maybe down on their luck. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
if you need an ear, give me a call. I'm
Exactly,
here to talk.
exactly.
And that's what it's all about. And
That's what it's all about.
if everybody figured that out, and if everybody operated like that, uh, world would be a lot better place.
Yes, absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
but and
Yes.
hey, not everybody can be positive and do that, and that's why I feel like folks like us, you know we put out a positive vibe, we put out a positive message, we want and encourage others to do well and be
Mm-hmm.
positive. And I feel like people like us are you know we're kind of like not a what's the word I'm there's a word that I'm trying to use to describe, you know, like a bearer of the torch, if you will. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be making people happy. I'm supposed to be having positive conversations. I'm supposed to be lifting other people up. I'm supposed to be helping other people out. I feel like that's why we're here. That's what we're here to do. Like be positive. And it's just, man, it's so easy to be positive. And then the results through positivity are just are what really blow me away. When things line up in the universe, and that energy that you're putting out there, I feel it comes back 10, 50, 60 times what you put out, like, because other people are receptive to that and start taking in that energy,
Mm-hmm.
and just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just I don't know. Just my little thought on that whole on that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Well, we had a recording studio. We had our first recording studio in the '90s, and we were dealing with a lot of producers all over California, and we came up with the idea. People thought we was crazy of music sharing, file sharing over the internet.
Okay.
And we tried to get a patent. We tried to tell the banks about it so we can get a loan through the banks to get it. We had this idea of music sharing over the internet and sharing files to other producers all over the world, and people didn't. They looked at us like we was crazy. And look what happened. Napster got it done. Napster filed it, filed the patent. Napster did the music sharing, and look at Apple Music. Look at that.
I I
You know.
know. And it's funny because, like, you got Apple Music, you have Spotify, iHeartRadio, all these avenues, and excuse me, I feel it's a blessing and it's a curse.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
blessing because I feel that the music can get out to people that would
Mm-hmm.
have never had access to, say, I can't get to a record store, or we don't have a mall or a music store anywhere near where we live, any part of the world where somebody can get, whether it's an iPhone or an MP3 player, or, if they still sell those, I don't know. But it's like now everybody has a mini computer in their hand, and you know, you can listen to any music from anywhere in the world, and that just and at any point in time, I could wake up at 12:30 in the morning and be like, oh, I want to listen to Pavarotti, or I want to listen to Creedence Clearwater Revival, or I'm going to put Chuck Berry on, or whatever.
Exactly.
Like that blows my mind,
Yeah.
and I love it for that. I
Yes.
don't love it for what it does to the artist, as far as, I feel like so many of those companies just took advantage of the artists,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what are they getting, like fractions of a cent,
Yes.
and it's like, and then when they tour, when an artist that I support and love comes around, I feel I need to go because I want to see
Mm-hmm.
that artist, and then I need to buy merchandise while I'm there because I need to support that artist, and I feel like the
Yeah.
merchandise, I feel vinyl's kind of making a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
I know Jack White from the White Stripes, and he lives down in Tennessee, and he just bought he had or opened a record a printing company,
Okay.
where he's pressing albums and doing it like it's like a thing. And I know Metallica bought a
Mm-hmm.
printing company to do vinyls, and it's like
Yes.
I love that. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. I love getting a record. I still listen to vinyl, and
Oh yeah.
it's
I
just
love vinyl.
it's just
Love vinyl.
the imperfection. Like, you can hear the rawness in it. It's not cleaned up. It's not always pretty, but I mean, that's what it was. It's just,
Yeah.
it takes you back to it. When I put a vinyl record on, it takes me back to when I was a kid, when my grandmother had vinyl records playing, and that's like, I just, oh man, I love vinyl.
Well, we started our own record label back in 1993 called Nubian Records,
Okay.
and we put out an artist called the Mad General, and we went to a music convention in Atlanta called Jack the Rapper, and that's when we met Master P. Master P. We gave, back then, promoting your artist, you had to promote your records and tapes, cassette tapes, out of the trunk of your car. So what we did, we had Nubian Records T-shirts and posters and tapes and vinyl. We gave a lot to Puffy. Puffy gave us a lot of his stuff of Craig Mack and Biggie, and Master P was promoting his brother Silk the Shocker. So we took a lot of his stuff, and he took a lot of our stuff and promoted our stuff in the South, and we were promoting Silk the Shocker and Biggie and stuff in the Atlantic City area.
That's awesome.
So that's how we networked back in the early '90s.
It was a
And,
much simpler time, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
You know,
Yes, so that it was. I think of the music industry now to compare to when it was back there. It's so much easier for artists to promote and market their own music now than it was back then when we was coming up.
yeah, because you were actually out on the streets doing the legwork.
Exactly. But back then you had a lot of mom and pop record stores that they don't have that no more. That's gone. We had a lot of mom and pop record stores, and we had a lot of mom and pop radio stations also.
Yep. I miss all that.
It was a different time. It was a different time.
Sure was. Yeah, going into your local record store, or I mean, every mall had Phi Music, or we have there were a bunch of them. There's still, we get Newberry Comics, which is like I guess it's like a Massachusetts thing. There's a bunch of them out towards the eastern part. We still have one in Northampton, and I'll go over there. When there's new vinyl releases, I pop in there and I'll grab some vinyl, or then I go. Of course, then I sit there for 3 hours going through all the used stuff that came in. And it's like, oh wow, where did the 3 hours go? Like, oh, we actually got to do something. But yeah, the record shops and yeah, when you go there, and then bands would be at the record store doing
Mm-hmm.
signings on CDs or the
Yeah,
vinyl.
they do CD signing
Yes,
and tape signing. Yes,
that
yes,
that was the
yep.
best. That was the best. I'm so happy I was able to grow up in that era and
Mm-hmm.
experience that kind of thing. Like, as a kid, I got big into like the punk and hardcore scene back in the it was like the early 90s, like 92,
Okay.
93. And my parents were awesome. They let me go to shows. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm going to all ages shows at like 13, 14, and I'm like
Uh-huh.
just like getting my mind blown by
Yeah.
these hardcore punk rock bands, and it was like holy shit.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
but it was it
Well, me as a producer, that my producer name back in the '80s was Sampler B, and I used to sample everything. I had the MP. I was one of the first ones in my neighborhood to have a Lindrum MPC 60 sampling drum machine. This is back in the '80s, and I used to sample Tom Sawyer and all these other rock records and come up with my own beats and snippets and stuff like
hell
that.
yeah.
And it was just amazing, just creating a painting with snippets of music and coming up with your own idea, flipping it, making it go reverse, and just changing the pitch of it, speeding it up, slowing it down, making all types of kicks and snares and sampling. That was I was that young kid in the basement with your mother saying, "Turn that music down," and not knowing that that's keeping me out of trouble. Just me in the basement, just making music, just making beats. I wasn't on the streets dealing drugs and getting in trouble. I was very creative. I was always creative.
Well, you know what? Creative artistic minds, we operate differently. You
Yes,
know, you know,
absolutely.
I like, I have, our buddy Dex and I always talk about it. Like, we have trouble shutting it off sometimes. You know, trying to shut it off, and it's like, because, I feel like I always want to do better. I always want to, every time I do something, I want it better than the last time I did it. And, and it's like, I don't know. I had a spiritual awakening a couple years ago,
Okay.
and it put me on this path. It put me on the path to be able to do the podcast.
Great. Great.
Things changed in my life, and then I interacted with people and started talking, and one of the true blessings of social media is I connected with Ricardo Grimm, Dex, one of Dex's,
Mm-hmm.
and Cornell.
Another artist I was working with.
Yeah, man, what a fucking humble, and he inspired me to start this podcast. He
Really?
yes,
I didn't know that.
yeah. So I met Grim and I. We started talking. It's been a minute. It's been probably about a year and a half or so. Maybe a little
Yes.
less than that, but
I'm so used to using his old name, Bread. I keep on forgetting his name is Grim, but I used to call him Bread back in the day.
yeah. Now he's rebranded and he's had a rebirth.
Yes, he had a rebirth.
You
A
know,
rebirth.
and I
Yep.
think sometimes that's the best thing for your soul is
Yes.
you need to refining that fire, and because we all have it, we all have a fire, we all have it. Some people's just gets extinguished, some people's it just burns very low because they don't know how to do something, or they're afraid to make a change. And it's like once you kind of slow down, start listening to the universe, start focusing on certain things and changing the way you operate, it's like holy shit, like
Yes.
it's life changing. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
he inspired me. I was I was doing some writing some music in my house.
Hmm.
I had gotten hurt. I was in an accident and I was laid up for a bit. And And so I'm like, I'm fucking depressed and this and that, and and Grim was getting ready to start releasing music, and his social media presence. So I shared something with him, and then him and I just started exchanging conversation, through messaging, and then I'm like, man, I'm gonna start this podcast. I've been thinking about doing it, and I'm gonna do it. And he's like, yeah, bro, fucking do it. And I said, well, if I do it, would you come on at some point? And he's like, yeah, I'll fucking come on. So I'm like,
absolutely.
All right.
He's another humble artist. I mean, he is the real deal.
He
is the real deal.
He really is, and again, like, just the way the universe worked, and him and I, connected, and then Cornell, it was like, boom, boom, like holy shit, and then it's like, I love those two. I love those guys. Their energy that they put out and what I'm putting out towards them, and it's it's funny. With Dex, him and I feel spiritually connected, and he's the best, and he's another one that's been like my a mentor towards me and how I do things, and being a creative mind also, to talk to, and it's so nice to have somebody to talk to like that knows kind of what you're going through and trying to go through the motions with you, and help you, and yeah, so that's how I got into doing this, and then it was just like, I'm gonna start having more conversations with more people, and it's like, I absolutely love this. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be having positive conversations with people and lifting them up and talking about their lives, because
absolutely
people, people love to tell their story. People like to hear, people's story.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just, being a good human, and human interest stories. I mean, because at the end of the day, it affects you, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way. There's, I like making that connection with people. But enough about me. So yeah, so you knew Grim back in the day, and and where he's at now, and again, beautiful person, love him to death, and love what he's doing. And I'm looking forward
to. He's a star. He's a star.
He is, and what he's doing too is totally different. Like, he's on another level. Like, it's very different, and I love that.
Yes. I shopped Bread and Gogo Morrow and another artist, Nero, to Interscope Records, to Jimmy Iovine, and he wanted to sign them, but the deal wasn't what they wanted at the time, and I was dealing with a production company named the Matrax, and they didn't want to do the deal, so that deal did never happen. That was, I think, 2010 maybe, about 13 years ago.
Time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a long story short, Gogo Morrow ended up signing to Interscope Records anyway about a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she's signed to Interscope Records now. She has she put out an album last year. She was on the BET Awards. She was on a whole bunch of shows, and her videos are nice. And I think I sent you some of her material.
Yeah, you sent me a lot of stuff, and
I sent you a lot of stuff.
I appreciate that, because it was like, just
I didn't want to overwhelm you with a lot of stuff.
No, but I appreciate that, because I love seeing stuff that I normally wouldn't see, or normally wouldn't check out. And I love when people do that, like, hey, check out this, go check out that, People do that to me all the time. Oh, go check out this band. They're a local band where I'm from, but you'll love them. It's like, oh, cool, yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
They'll,
Yeah, I was also in the 90s. I was managing a young lady. Her name was Blue Raspberry. She was the only female artist that was part of Wu-Tang back in the 90s.
Yep. Yep. I'm very familiar with her. I follow her too on
Yeah.
on the Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Another great human.
I mean, her voice was just amazing. I remember we taking her up to New York to the Apollo, and she won the Apollo 4 times in a row. Nobody wins the Apollo 4 times in a row. Her voice was that powerful, so Wu-Tang signed her, and that's how her career started, doing hooks and singing with Wu-Tang.
That's awesome. Talk about an influential band.
Yes.
And it's funny because a lot of these bands you're talking about, like they help, and these musicians help shape an entire genre of music.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
And what hip hop just had its 50th, right? 50 years this year.
Did.
Like, I remember I was, who I was exposed to hip hop out here in East Hampton, Massachusetts, Western Mass. We're a farming community. It was the Beastie Boys.
What year was this? What year did was you exposed to hip hop?
So it was when the Beastie Boys came out.
Oh wow!
So it was the Beastie.
Exactly.
It was the Beastie Boys, and it was like.
Yeah.
And then I saw the Beastie Boys, and I'm like, holy shit, this is 3 white dudes. Like, but again, in my head now, I'm like, well, okay, cool. They're 3 white dudes. They're doing what they love, and they're successful. And that was like one of the first times I think, like I had a seed in my head, like, and we grew up in a wicked, my parents were hippies back in the day, and it was a very, very, very relaxing, just a very good vibe. My everybody there was always music on, and my parents were super cool. They let me do a lot of stuff. I mean, I was a good kid. I didn't get in trouble because I was always occupied. I was always doing something. But yet that time it kind of put the thing in my head, like, it doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter anything. No. It's like, you can do it if you want to, and you love what you're doing. And, growing up like that, and like my dad's youngest brother introduced me to like heavy metal.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And it was like, my mom, my mom was always playing like Cream and Zeppelin and Hendrix and the Who, the Beatles, Queen. Queen. I always shout out to Queen when I'm doing my podcast because I absolutely love Queen. Just another level, very, very beautiful humans. Queen. But bands.
You remember the group back in the 80s, Third Base, the MC Search?
Yes.
Yeah, that was another group that I was good friends with, MC Search and Third Base back in the 80s. It was a lot of rappers back in the 80s that was coming out that was represented hip hop.
What's funny is all those guys that didn't get the breaks that others did and had huge commercial success. It's like those guys were the guys that paved the way for everybody else.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's it's funny because in every genre of music, I feel there's bands out there that are like, how did these guys go like so low profile? Like, why didn't anybody hear about them? The music's awesome, their message is awesome. It's just like, and I love finding music like that, but and then you find out like, oh, they haven't been together for 25 years, and certain members are passed on, and it's like, oh man, okay.
Yeah.
But you can always go buy that vinyl or buy that CD or download it on your phone, and the music's there.
Absolutely. Apple Music.
Apple Music. I like I said, I love and hate it at the same time. But
Yeah.
I'm just happy it can connect with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you've been in the game for a while,
Yeah, since the '80s. I've been in the game since the '80s.
since the '80s, and how do you feel?
Since the '80s.
How is it gotten? Like, do you enjoy it still? Do you love doing what you're doing?
Repeat that again.
Do you enjoy what you're doing? Do you still love doing what you're doing?
Oh, I still love music. I still love music, and that's gonna be a part of me probably forever, forever. You know, I'm still a member of the Recording Academy for the Grammys. You know, I was an ambassador for the Grammys, so
Good.
I love music.
Congratulations.
Love music. I was part of the Philadelphia chapter
That's awesome.
for the Recording Academy. Yes.
But you know what? What an accomplishment in your life to be able to say that, because not a lot of people can say that. So that's good for you, man. I'm truly happy for you in that aspect of your life.
Thank,
That's
thank you.
beautiful. You know,
Yeah.
are you still active doing things musically?
Uh, right now, I was managing my son-in-law.
Okay.
His name is Wolfgang Jock. I think I sent you some of his stuff.
Yep.
But he is taking some time off, and me and my college partners that we had GMS Productions, we had Nubian Records. We started a technology company in 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're working on something really big. I just want you to remember this conversation, and we're about to come out with something that's groundbreaking very soon.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Another major accomplishment in your life.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
so I want to rewind just a little bit.
Okay.
So you're in the '80s. You're doing this. You go into the '90s.
Hmm.
You're doing music. Now what? Now I know the landscape going from the '80s to '90s. What was it like when it switched over into the 2000s?
Oh, everything was changing. Like even the sound of the hip hop. Uh, you had the Neptunes that was coming out in the late '90s and early 2000s. With samples and singing riffs and singing hooks, and the music changed a lot. R&B and hip hop was merging very well back then. You know,
Yeah, it's
so.
and I it's I know for a while it seemed to kind of get away from what it was,
Hmm.
and I think I don't know if it's I felt like the '80s everything was an excess and overabundance and just fucking over the top, and then the '90s I don't know, I felt like it kind of got real again.
Yes.
Then I felt like
Hmm.
in the 2000s, beginning to mid, it started to have another shift and it started to get like kind of excessive again and like over
Yeah.
the top. And then now I feel like things are back to like, I mean, there's so many underground people that are, and maybe it's just because of the internet and the
Yes.
exposure
Hmm.
everybody gets now. Um, which again, it's a double edged sword, but it's awesome because there's so many underground people doing underground things, like doing this podcast. A friend of mine, Ronzo Cartwright, who's
Hmm.
singer in a band out of Nashville, Stone Deep.
Yes.
He was in the hardcores before that. They started mixing rap and metal, and hard
Hmm.
rock back in the '80s.
Hmm.
And then went into the '90s, and he opened up for Ice T and Body Count.
Wow. Wow.
He's wicked good dude. The music's great.
Hmm.
But he was telling me, he's like, man, what you're doing is this is underground. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I never really thought of it like that. He's like, yeah. He's like, you're giving people a voice to talk in an environment where there's nothing, like there's no no limits what we're doing, and you know, and we're connecting with people and we're having these conversations, and there's, you know, nobody's timing me, nobody's telling me I can't say this or I can't say that, or, oh, you know what, don't talk about that artist, or you can talk about, it's like, no, we're keeping it real. This is real.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
I feel, and I said, oh, all right. I said, yeah, man, I feel that now I get it. And he's like, yeah, man, this is the fucking underground. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
I never thought I would get into doing podcasts and listening to them. And the more I do it and the more I listen to them and the more I interact with people, I'm like, it's a beautiful thing to be able to do. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cornell says hello, and Grim says salute. They're they're
Tell them I said I love both those brothers. Tell them tell them I love them and I miss them, man. I'm glad they're still in the music industry, and a lot of the artists that I worked with back in the past is still doing their thing. Yeah, you know, Grim, even my artist Nero that I used to work with back in the day, Nero, he's still coming out with new music, and a lot of other artists from the past are still doing their thing, which is great. It keeps me going. It keeps my spirit going when I hear great music.
That's awesome. Yeah, Dex says he loves you too, and he misses you. He
All
wants
right.
miss you in your town. So yeah, you guys will have to connect again at some point. That's all.
Absolutely. We all going to connect because, like I told you, that I started a technology company back in 2008, and it's going to be geared around artists and music also.
Hell
So
yeah.
you're gonna look back at this conversation and say, yeah, he told me about that, and now I know what it is.
That's awesome. Well,
Yes.
I
So
look forward to that. I look forward to whatever it may be that you have coming up.
absolutely, we want to have a second interview when that comes to comes into fruition.
hell yeah, man. Yeah, Grim says he loves. He says, I love you, Rob. You always been 100%. He says, I love Tim.
Absolutely.
You already know, bro. Yeah, good. Like, you know, it's these text messages. It's, you know, the phone calls, the interactions, and these fucking guys and everybody. It's like that positive mindset and lifting other people up. It you build on that, and
Yeah.
once that momentum gets going, it's like, man, man, it it's overwhelming sometimes.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I know at night I sit down and I have to I try to meditate every night. And it could be for a minute, it could be 2 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, you know, I'm able just to tune out, and I just like, it's kind of like when you flush the toilet, it's kind of like a
Uh-huh.
flush. Like,
Yeah.
okay, gonna let go of everything today, let go of my, you know, anything negative. Tomorrow's a new day, it's a clean slate, let's just start over. And it's like you wake, and I find I get up in the morning and I'm like, okay, let's go. Time to take on the day. And I enjoy that, and I enjoy waking up and taking on the day. There's times I don't know if you ever went through any type of depression, um, but you know, I've been there, and it's like, man, some days it's like, man, I got to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, you know, but you know, again, being able to connect with positive people and do things positively, and you know, other
And
people.
you got to surround yourself by positive energy all the time and positive people.
Absolutely,
You know, that's what you
absolutely.
want to. That's what life's about. Surrounding yourself with nothing but positive energy, positive people. Like even when I was coming up, even in the business realm, with surrounding myself with people like Lewis Katz and Ed Snyder. Those guys started from nothing, became billionaires, and even when they were billionaires, it still was close to me. Still took me out to dinner, and we went places. And their energy was still positive and still strong and still, outgoing. And they're just, even though those guys are deceased now, their memories are always going to be in my heart.
And that's it. having the memories, having moments, and there's always those moments too, and I call them sometimes they're a defining moment in your life where
Mm-hmm.
the trajectory of the course of your life changes.
Yes.
Sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it could be for the worst, but being able to share those with people and and enjoy those moments with people, and then you're building memories, and it's like even though they're not here, and I feel like even though people pass on, they're still that energy is still with us.
Oh yeah, that energy still is in the atmosphere, still around
Yes,
us at all
absolutely.
times. At
you,
all times.
and another thing I always say too, and you know I feel when a close friend dies or a family member, a small piece of me dies with them, and I don't
Yes.
know if that's what keeps us connected to them in the afterlife. I don't know. I don't know because I try to wrap my head around this stuff sometimes, and it's like okay, because I'll ask for guidance from deceased friends or family members or a higher power,
Absolutely.
and majority of the time I'm I it'll come to me like oh my god, this is what I'm supposed to do,
Yes.
like and
And
it
and and to say something as far as the spirit is still in the atmosphere. Today is the anniversary of Dame, that was one of Grimm's producers when we first met, and he died 2 years ago today.
oh
So that proves it to me that his energy is still in the atmosphere, and he's still watching over everybody.
well, shout out to him, and hopefully yeah, he's with us doing this. Hey,
Absolutely.
he could have been one of the powers that brought this together.
Yes, yes. Yeah, he was one of the best producers that came out of the Philadelphia area, and he was just amazing. Right before he passed away, he produced Rick Ross. Produced a song for Rick Ross.
Holy shit! Wow, nice.
Yeah, so you know,
Well,
I mean, we were all close. We were all close.
and it's it's again like I said, they move on, but they're still here with us. You know,
Absolutely,
and that's
absolutely.
and then the thing that
And
we can do is we can keep their memory alive by honoring them, by doing good things, by doing something that they would have done, and that's I think the biggest honor is to do that for loved ones or family or friends or whatever, is to keep their memory
absolutely,
alive.
absolutely.
Long live Dante Dame. Matrix 100 Grimm.
That's right. There it is. Dante Dane. Dane was a great human being, great producer. I mean, just amazing person. Just amazing person.
It's what's funny is it seems like a lot of genuine good people always die at the wrong time, and I feel like sometimes the most horrible and vile of people can hang out and live into their elder years and just be complete scum. And then it's like you have beautiful people that just and I'm just saying an artistic, a beautiful good person gets extinguished too early, and I try to grasp that, like why did they have to leave? Well, maybe there's, I don't know, maybe that was, they need to be somewhere else. I don't know. It just I
But
always
but but,
I,
but Tim, we all here only a short time.
I
You may think it's a long time, but it's a very short time that we're on this planet Earth in human form.
I know, and it's crazy. It's like I'm still young. I'm only 44, but I've raised four kids. I've got one out of college, one a senior in college, and my two boys both are graduates of high school and they're working in the trades. Um,
Congratulations. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you. I,
Amazing.
I appreciate
Yes.
that. Yeah, raising kids was, before I had kids, I was always in the garage. I always liked fast cars, and I was always working on my car and street racing and being an asshole when I was younger. And
Speaking of street racing, they're going to open up. But they work. Atlantic City's working on building a racetrack right outside the city. They
really,
have a racetrack there. Yes, yes. That's going to be something big. That's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years.
oh my God, that's one thing. It's like people don't realize these tracks, the racetracks, those attract those pull kids off the streets.
Yes.
Those keep kids from getting hurt on the streets, and it's like, I mean, and I'm not condoning street racing, but I used to absolutely love street racing because
Yes.
it was the adrenaline, and it was dangerous, and you know I always tried to not ever put anybody else life in jeopardy. If I was
No.
going street race, it would be like I'm in a street race by myself, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick up if I have passengers or whatever. It's
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this quick little story, not to take away from what we're talking about, but
Mm-hmm.
one night I was dating my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I had my car, and there was these street races down in Holyoke, and it was
Yeah.
real underground shit. And we're hanging out in the Kmart Plaza, and we're waiting for people to race or whatever. And another buddy of mine, Alex, he was there with his Mustang, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to race?" "Yeah, we'll race." Him and I raced from light to light, and then we decided to race again. We kept going. We didn't like let off.
Yeah.
We just kept going. And then
Mm-hmm.
I had my brother in the car, and I'm like, and we had turned around, and it's a double lane highway or road, and there's a guardrail down the middle, so you got to go down and then come loop all the way back around. So we're looping back up to come back up to where everybody was, and I see blue lights coming the other way. I'm like,
Wow.
what the fuck? So my brother's like, well, just like slow down and I'll get out of the car. And he's like, and I'll get Dawn home, my wife. And he had his girlfriend. I had my girlfriend there. Who happens, I married her, and there was a bunch of my friends, and I took off, and I ran, and I
Wow.
eventually got home after like hiding. I was hiding down side streets, and I watched the cops go by. Then I wait a minute. Then I take off. It was a shit show, but it's like, you know, here I am, this kid doing all this stupid shit, and I get home, and and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, absolutely hated me for that. Like, I can't believe you left me down there. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't want to get arrested, but we end up getting married and having 4 kids, and it's just like you never know where life is going to take you. You never know what direction it's going to go into. Something I love doing, and driving like an idiot, and then you have kids, and it's like, oh man, I'm not supposed to be doing that anymore.
No.
Things get put into perspective.
When you're young like that, you think that you're indestructible.
You do, and it's I still feel like I have moments like that where it's like, oh, I could do this. It's like, hey, idiot, your back isn't 20 years old, it's 44 years old. So
Yeah, your mind says yes, but your body says no.
isn't it funny how that works the older we get?
That's how that works.
My biggest I used to ride bike a lot. I was a BMX kid, and
Oh wow. Okay.
I used to race. My mom would always taking us to the races. Friday nights, me and my brother, we raced BMX, and that was a huge part of my youth, riding bikes and BMX and dirt jumps. And here we are in 2023, the attic of my barn, with my friends who are big into BMX, that were professional riders. We ended up converting the attic of our barn into a BMX skate park. So it's all ramps and all this stuff, and kids go up, they can go up there and ride. Now it's just family and close friends that go up there.
Yeah.
But we've had people from all over the world come over to ride that spot. So it's kind of a big thing. But again, it's something, when I was a kid, just riding BMX, dirt jumping, and like, I never would have thought I'd have that for my kids to experience and enjoy. It's just it's weird. Again, things in life that affected you in your youth, sometimes it comes back full circle. When you get older, like it's still a part of you. You're not sure if it's how it's going to stay a part of you, and then it just comes full circle, and it's like, okay, yeah, now it's back in your life. Like, okay, I don't know if you have things in your life that like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's things that I used to do as a kid and say, "Wow, I really did that." I mean, I wouldn't want my kids to like. I used to go dirt bike riding all the time. I used to ride my bike to different cities on the highway. I would never let my kids do any of that type of stuff. But we did it as a kid because we thought it was cool.
We lived in a different era too.
Yes, yes, we did.
We lived in a different era. People weren't distracted with their cell phones while they're driving.
Yeah,
And
right.
and you basically have a computer on your dashboard now with the newer cars. With all your music settings and all your climate control settings, everything digital, and then you can pull the map up if you're using Google Maps or whatever. It's like back when we were kids, it was raw iron with four tires driving around. Like they were paying attention where they were going. Totally different time. And I as a kid too, I remember like on my street, like we live, it's a pretty built up area now, but it was like, we'd see like maybe a dozen cars go by during the day.
Absolutely.
And now it's like we'll see 200 cars go by, and it's like, oh, okay, like, oh yeah, times are changing. There's more people, but everybody's always occupied. It seems like they're always occupied, like preoccupied. Even when you're driving, everybody's like preoccupied with whatever, just life or social media or whatever. I don't know. It's different, just a different time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so you've been doing this for a long time, loving what you're doing. The tech
My
company.
entire life. I can't believe I'm 60 years old. I'm 60 years. Let's turn 60 in July.
Happy belated birthday! And I know when
Thank you. I keep myself. I try to eat healthy, stay in shape. I work out, meditate, I pray. And people look at me and say, "Man, there's no way you're 60 years old." I said, "Well, I surround myself with positive energy and young people, and that's why I keep myself going and staying young."
That's all you can do. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
having the positive mindset is so huge to your own success.
Absolutely.
And if you can take it to the next level, which is projecting that positive energy towards others, that's when it starts coming back even more. And that positive, it just, like I said, positivity is contagious. We need it in our lives. We need it now more than ever. I mean,
Exactly.
there's so much fucking negativity now, and the way that the world is, and then people getting, pulled one way or another with politics and religion and sexual orientation. Like, it's like, man, if everybody just worried about themselves and their family and their friends, like, we'd be a lot better place.
Yeah. Yeah. My day job, I work for Disney in Orlando. I'm a supervisor for one of the hotels in Disney. And I tell all the young kids that's on my, college kids, young kids, I said, never let anybody tell you what you can't do. You can do anything you want to do. You put your mind to it. And if anybody tell you something that's negative, just walk away from that person, because you can do anything that God gave you the energy to do.
Sure. Yeah, and it's.
So,
I think people are their own worst enemies sometimes when it be self-doubt. I think self-doubt is so dangerous, and it's. I think it's one of the most of the toxic traits that we as humans can have, because self-doubt can put you on a freaking dangerous path of destruction. It can put you, into depression.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can do. we as a human species, it's the greatest and scariest thing. What I'm going to say, we are absolutely capable of anything at any point in time, in any day, any hour. We can do whatever we want. There
Yes,
are
we can.
repercussions to what we do, whether it's negative or positive. But that to me, that the choice of free will is such a it's a blessing and it's a curse. And I say that because some people don't know how to balance out how to use free will, and I think
Mm-hmm.
then it puts them onto a darker path. It puts them on a path of
Absolutely.
self destruction. It puts them on a path of hurting others. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to learn how to accept that and be able to deal with it. Um,
Yes.
just
Yes, you do.
just my zen, my moment of zen. Dex just said true
Uh,
story. So, but
yes.
yeah, man, I appreciate you for coming on here and doing this. I know it's night, and
I'm happy to be on your show, Tim. This is amazing.
well,
And as you can see, I love to talk
I'm the same. I'm
or
the same
hear.
way. It's easy to, like you said, you surround yourself with positive people and you have positive conversation. You lift each other up. Like, I know after we're done talking, I'm going to be up for another couple hours, even though I have to get up and go to my day job tomorrow. You know,
Yes.
but because I'm like, it gives me a boost of endorphins. It gives me a boost of testosterone. It gives you everything, that dopamine.
Yes.
You feel good, and then it's like, and then I wake up in the morning and it's like, I want more.
Exactly.
I want
And
that.
and 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 doing what you're doing expires. It expires other people, the other kids, and they look at you and say, "Wow." I mean, that's cool. That's cool stuff that Tim is doing. His energy, your energy transports to other kids.
Absolutely, and that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. That was the whole thing with doing these talks was, if I can affect and change one person's life through a positive conversation I've had with somebody, and somebody can hear that and relate to it and be like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change this in my life. I'm going to change this. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to start, whatever.
Yes.
Maybe they're on the maybe they're a genius and they're an artist and they're like on the brink of, being able to break out of their shell and do what they want to do, and hopefully one of these talks will push them over the edge to do something beautiful. And that's all I
Yes.
ever wanted to do with any of these conversations. I mean, they're intimate too. They're, we're talking about family, and we're talking about like personal things in life, and it's like, and I love talking about that. I love talking about my family. I love talking about everybody else's accomplishment. I enjoy that, and it feels good. And then when you talk and you have a guest on, and they're giving you the same feedback, it's like, man, this is great. This is great.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So
Yes.
I just want to ask you, like I said, I know it's getting later in the evening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see? I want to just get back to music real quick. Where do you see
Okay.
the future of music right now with what's going on?
I, I think the music is never going to die. It's going to keep on going forever and ever. But I think music changes, and I think the aura of hip hop is going back to the beginning. I mean, the sound from old is becoming the sound of new.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a lot of the old artists from the 80s and 90s are going back on tour, and they still have a following. People still like to see, just like the 50th anniversary of hip hop, a lot of people are following that. And people miss that old sound, that old music. But now a lot of the old artists are coming out with new songs now. They're coming back out. People like to hear, if they're legend artists from the 80s and 90s still rocking it like that.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's I think I think the last 2 years after going through COVID and dealing with all the shit that everybody went through, I think you're seeing people that you know
Yeah.
that were in the game maybe want to be back in the game now because they know life is short and they know like okay, well, if this happened, I mean, when COVID hit and I couldn't go to live shows, I was
No,
at
that was out. You couldn't go there. I mean, the artist lifeline was most artists make monies off their shows, their show promoting and concerts, and once they took that away, they didn't have a stream of income.
I know, and
So
it was scary. I think everybody saw how crazy things could get, and in the blink of an eye,
yeah,
it's all done. Like you can't go anywhere, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, oh shit. Well, then I think what happened was there was this rising of artists, musicians, painters, whatever, poets coming out and being like, you know what, I'm gonna put myself out there now because I don't know how long we have left. We don't know what's gonna happen next, and you know what, I'm gonna write this song, or I'm gonna write this poem, or I'm gonna paint this picture. I see so many people out there now putting themselves out there and doing it, and it's absolutely awesome. I love it. I love that, I felt that, after 9/11, the country came, everybody came together.
yes,
There was a lot of love, there was togetherness, something so horrific and terrible happened and everybody pulled together. Everybody was New York strong. I just, everybody knows where they were when that happened. And I feel like, we lost our way over, since 9/11. Everybody got just weird and, you know, just, I don't know, disillusioned to what had happened. And then COVID hits. And then it's like, and I kind of felt like after we got out of it, like people started like maybe making that phone call to a friend that you haven't talked to in 20 years, or reconnecting with a relative that you had a falling out with, because again, you just don't know. Our time is so short, and to be, unable to do things and interact with people, it killed me.
yes,
Not going to live shows, that was the, oh my god, that gutted me. Like I couldn't go see live musicians. There were no local bands playing. Like it was like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? Like what? That's my outlet though. Like I need
yeah,
to go. I need to go see artists, even if it's going down to the local pub, or there's a great little guitar shop in town that has a bar and they have a restaurant in there, and there's local musicians that come and play. My son's best friend is a up and coming uh, musician. He's can play guitar from basically listening and watching a YouTube video of somebody playing it, and then he's got an awesome voice, so he can sing. So he's going out and performing in all these little places, and it's like, yeah, man, like keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And I asked him the other day, I said, hey, why don't you write your own music? And he's like, well, I've been thinking about it, and I started writing a song. I said, okay. I said, well, don't think about it anymore, just do it.
just do it,
And he's like,
just
yeah, you
do
know
it.
what, I'm going to. And I said, yeah. I said, you should. I said, you should do it because you're going to feel better. And I said, and you want people to hear your music. I said, everybody, it's great listening to cover songs and you're great at singing cover songs, but I'm like, we need your music.
Yes, yes, you
And
do.
somebody had reached out to me. I'll keep this. It's going to be a little on the down low, but they told me if he gets a song, if he writes a song, it's going on a compilation album. Because I sent him a clip of him playing, and they're like, "This is awesome. Let's keep this going." So it kind of gave him a little push, an incentive, to finish it. And again, support. He's 19 years old, and I'm going to do everything I can to lift him up and support him, because he's he's a good kid. He's got a
Absolutely.
beautiful voice. He's got a gift. I said, I've been playing guitar. I'm it's been 30 years. I started playing bass, and then I picked the guitar back up like 10 years ago. And I'm not a great guitar player. I like making sounds. That's what I like doing. I like plugging into my, making sounds and having fun. And I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, you got a gift. Like, when you could sit there and listen to music and then play it and play it with ease, and then you can sing to that. I said,
That's a gift.
it is a
That's
gift.
a gift.
And I said, you got to use that. So shout out to anybody that's going to listen to this or is listening to this that has doubts on if they want to take that next step. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it.
Absolutely.
Life is too short. You got to take the next
Life is
step.
too short. Just do it.
That's right. Well, I want to leave you with I appreciate you. I thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. And when when you're ready to launch the tech and you can release information, or right after it releases, we'll have another conversation.
We sure will.
And
sure will.
In the future, I know things are going to go good for you. I can feel it. I connected with your energy. I can feel that, and I wish nothing but the best for you. And is there anything that you want to give a shout out to, or anybody you want to, thank? Or
I want to give a shout out to my three beautiful daughters, my wife, my grandkids, little David, JJ, Noah Sunshine. I want to give a shout out to my whole GMS production crew, Nubian Records crew, New Lightwave Logic crew, the new tech that's about to drop real soon. And all my Grim, the Matrix, Nero, Ego that passed away, one of my best producers just recently passed away.
Oh, man.
Dame that passed away. Jacques G that passed away. I'll give a shout out to everybody, the whole world. And never give up on your dreams, because dreams do come true.
That's right. And you know what? I think that's a great that's a great finish to our beautiful talk we had tonight.
Yes, sir.
And again, I appreciate you, and I thank you for coming on. And
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we're going to do this again. So we'll do this again.
We're going to talk real soon.
All right. Sounds good, Robert. I appreciate
right.
it. And nothing but good things and good vibes, and blessings to you and your family.
Blessings to you also.
All right. Have a great evening.
You have a great night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was Robert Beck, and this was Strolling Down the Boardwalk. I want to thank everybody that tuned in tonight, everybody that listened, everybody that commented. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that supports what I'm doing. And again, we're going to have another conversation next Tuesday. And be good to one another. Be kind. Be positive. And enjoy your evening. Good night, everyone.